Hello, everybody. Sorry for being late. I had some technical difficulties I had to fix real quick before I wanted to make this perfect. I'm hoping my mic sounds okay today, but welcome to another episode of Duels and Discussions. This week's guest, we have Neve. Neve, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Dave, full channel Neve Liar. I am a variety streamer, focused on a variety of different content, been diving into the drama more late, and I recently made the decision to put my gaming specific content on another channel. So been building that for the last couple of days. So that's generally where my focus is. Yeah, thanks for having me on.
True, true. And do you have anything in particular that you want to talk about today? Otherwise, we can just kind of riff.
Let's riff a little and
All right,
kind
well,
of want to get
we
kind of
can do
into
that.
the
We can do
same a
that.
little.
All right, let me transition over to the Yu-Gi-Oh stream because that is part of the deal. A little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh, a little bit of conversation.
Oh. I used to watch the show when I was in middle school. I'm pretty sure that's when it would have been on. You're like the same age or
Yeah,
similar.
we're like the same age.
Yeah, so it would have been around that time, I think. Maybe grade
Yeah, I think it was
5,
more
grade 6,
elementary
grade
school
7.
for us.
Oh, right. Yeah, that makes more sense.
I
Oh,
think that's when I think so. I believe it. I started watching the show in like when I was in either middle of elementary school or like late elementary school.
okay. Have you been following it pretty closely since then?
No, no, absolutely not. Like this game was like the introduction back into Yu-Gi-Oh for me because
Okay.
I stopped playing I think in 2013 because I would play at a competitive level, but then I like stopped because again I just kind of lost interest, growing up doing shit.
Awesome. I really like the show, and I kind of only remember the first season pretty closely, but I remember watching it with my brothers. It was like one of the best parts of our week. It was honestly pretty cool. I still remember like the very first, uh, I would say arc pretty well, where they go onto that island.
Oh,
Um,
what is it? Duelist Kingdom arc,
I think so, yeah.
where they played with no rules at all. That's still one of my favorite arcs. I'm not even gonna lie. They would just be summoning blue eyes straight from their hand. It's crazy.
That has definitely informed my strategy for the session. So hopefully, it's not limiting. Yeah, that's funny. I remember the bug guy the most, but there's been so many different memes that have emerged from that series.
Oh,
And
for sure.
there's definitely a few that I've been saying nonstop since we decided that we were gonna do this. So I'm pretty sure you're familiar. Am I needing to do something on my end? Do I have to?
You have to click begin duel on your end
Oh, my
so
bad.
we
I'm
can,
sorry.
yeah. And choose to go
And
first or second.
I'll go easy on you.
Please do, please do. So yeah, so you started a gaming channel. What are you gonna be doing on that channel?
So I had my motivations for streaming when I first started was actually built around wanting to stream Overwatch. I always said to myself, it would be super cool to do something that I enjoy, something that I'm going to be doing anyways. And if I find a way to generate any sort of buzz around it, pretty happy. So that has been my focus more so with the channel now, where uh, there's been a lot of different algorithm considerations that have kind of been learning about more. Um, and so wanting a channel to be recognized by the algorithm for a particular thing, I've come to realize is like a really, something to really aim for.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of my motivation around like creating one recently, but it's been going really well. I've been kind of doing my best to kind of flood the algorithm with as many shorts and yeah, it's been a thing. Are we doing cameras on? I know I said initially no, but it's whatever is
Um,
great to do that.
it's whatever you want it to be at this point. I would have to do another setup, so it'd be a
Okay,
real
let's
quick change. But if you want to do cams up, we can do that real quick.
Christine says she was promised, so I think we better do it if you don't.
Okay.
Just tell me when to turn it on because you have to set it up, right?
Yeah. So we'll do that towards the middle, because everyone wants to see the mask. So, yeah, we'll do that towards the middle. At the beginning, let's just let it ride. But yeah, how is it like with the algorithm for you? Like, I know for me, like it's kind of hard because I'm mostly a gaming channel where this is a pretty new concept for me. So this one is the one where I don't know specifically how to get engaged into the algorithm, because uh it's a weird concept for sure. Like, I don't think a lot of people do this.
There's a lot of different things that you can do. I find that. Sorry, am I missing the end turn button?
Um, okay, there you go.
So there are a lot of different things that, like little considerations that you have to make. I think like a really good thought process to carry would specifically be um so a big thought process to carry would be that I think the world generally kind of it's like generally speaking, it kind of punishes people for not specializing. Like so when like the jack of all trades type person, you know, it's not necessarily like a good thing in certain circumstances. Like for example, if you're like a neuro brain surgeon, you make like some of the most money um, as a doctorate rather than a general practitioner who can treat more people, right? So I think the algorithm is kind of in a similar way where the um, the AI doesn't really want to do too much work to try and figure out what kind of channel you are. And
Yeah.
the better you can do to try and feed it with like little prompts with things like tags, hashtags, it really helps for, making the algorithm work in your favor. And I think the easiest way to do that and see results would be with like shorts. That's definitely something that that I've been having a lot of success with generally, but still some challenges as well.
So you would suggest to someone that is getting into the content creation game that shorts would probably be the best way to enter the algorithm?
Absolutely. And so it just depends on your particular kind of content. So for myself, when I do my gaming channel, I'm committed to doing it vertical or like in a mobile format. And so as long as I keep my formats consistent, the I feel that they'll feed into one another. Like it'll establish me in the algorithm as maybe like a shorts channel, but I think that a lot of the benefits that being recognized in the algorithm will also carry over to the lives. And so that's kind of like what I'm hoping to see in the future. But you know, it remains to be seen. Just recently though, I think I've had this gaming channel for like a week, and I think I have almost like 2,500 views on a variety of different shorts. Like combined. But my average on my existing channel was always somewhere in the 400 to like 500 range. And so I've hit that like 5 to 6 times already on my new channel, which is a really good sign. So
Okay.
yeah,
So how does the vertical streams go for you? Like, does that give you more engagement, or does it like I don't know? Like, I've seen people do it, but for me, typically, I don't know if you're just catching casual viewers that will drop in, but not really building any like community, I guess would be the word. Like faithful watchers, essentially, is what I'm trying to say.
definitely. Yeah, I think it does factor into what you are attempting to achieve. Sorry, I'm just reading this card.
Yeah, go for it. Whole point of the show be as
So yeah, so essentially like it's beneficial if you're consistent. Again, if you're in the algorithm already for a particular kind of stuff, like channel or direction, I think it's good. There are limitations though if you're under like 500 subscribers, I think, where if you attempt to go live, like it does kind of keep you to a smaller audience, although you can still grow. I think it's the difference between getting a video to a live stream to like thousands of viewers versus like a couple hundred or like 50. And yeah, I think the view time is definitely something that a lot of people consider. So I mean, if you are aiming to build a community, it's definitely something that you should like look into, because I think you need to definitely make some more conceited efforts to kind of like make to essentially like make those sorts of things more um accessible to your audience, because yeah, people are going to be coming in and out quickly, so you have to have something like some sort of plan in mind.
yeah, for sure. But like for that kind of like I think for like long-term building, you would want the community, or would you disagree with that statement?
It depends on what you're trying to achieve, I guess, because I guess with my like overworked content is very, it's not novel, I would say. Like, I mean, I think that's what I mean. Like it's very a dime a dozen kind of thing, you know what I mean? It's like there's I don't intend to necessarily like become a particular, like I think the best goal you could have is to be like an established streamer of sorts, right? To maybe expand your audience into other areas. I guess with my existing channel, that would be good. But away from that, yeah, you do have to kind of like hedge your expectations a little. Um, because yeah, like if you don't, I mean, like I guess like leveraging your existing mobile stuff, like leveraging your existing condos or whatever to with that like with all the discovery that you get is is like I guess the goal for it, if you want like longevity or anything like that. But yeah, it is very like um flimsy, I would say.
Yeah. But I would think that that's most content creators like goal, right? Like for me, like I do know like this is kind of like a hobby for me, so longevity isn't really like something that I particularly have in mind, but I know it's still back there in like the back of my like head, right? Like I know that's what I kind of want.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you would want something that is like if you're patient and you want like a bit of a slow burn, then definitely, making your channel like going the community route from the beginning, I think is definitely a good way to make your channel more robust. But I think that you do have to be very deliberate about the sort of things that you do, I guess, with that sort of thing. Um, and I made a lot of mistakes with our algorithm in when I first did it by just attempting to like throw a bunch of stuff at the wall. So in making a new channel now, I expect to like, see some different kinds of growth, but also understanding that the community that I have now is already, pretty unique in its own way. And now I'm like having to go back and work on some of those community, like basically I'm doing like some what we're talking about right now. Like,
Yeah.
how can I create an existing community out of my like fruit salad viewership, and it's difficult. Like it's definitely not easy. Like there's definitely going to be a lot of like sacrifices and stuff that I've had to make with, not doing that sort of thing from the beginning. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, is there any other like mistakes that you would like advise any new content creators to avoid or not
I
fall
think
into a certain pitfall?
I think it's okay to like move within genres. Like, for example, if you're a gaming streamer and you're attempting to do different games, that makes sense and it happens. Like, there's very few games that, like, it's okay to, like, so for example, it would be okay for you to be like a survival, uh, multiplayer, like an MMO streamer, right?
Yeah.
That gives you an opportunity to play a variety of different MMO games. However, if you start moving into like FPSs, like that might be too big of a deviation, right? So you might see some like viewership um, dips or whatever. But something that would be worse than that would almost be what I did, right? And taking a game like Overwatch that has a very massive like viewership base and essentially making it and then mixing it with some like niche stuff like drama commentary, all like the streamer and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think I've I'm lucky that the majority of my growth did come through the kind of content that I'm doing now. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of like there's a lot of like viewers that I think would only show up to my stuff if I'm doing Overwatch. And yeah, I mean, if you've ever looked at any of my stuff, some of the most like when I do regular everyday stuff, like I think I have streams that are going like 200 to 300 views. But when I did Overwatch, I was like every other stream or like at least one in a handful of them was hitting like 1K to like my busiest stream was at 2.4 thousand views. So it was like a bit of a hard pill to swallow to realize like, oh damn, I fucked this up. Like ideally what I should have done is taken the content that I'm doing now and moving it to the new channel. But I think just with the sort of direction that I'm headed in, I'm confident that I might be able to turn it around because I think 1,000 subscribers really isn't that much. It is for me. It still is. It's not lost on me by any means. But I do feel like if I could do it again, I'd have been more deliberate.
Yeah, in the grand scheme of things, it isn't a lot, right? But I would
Not
still say
not
like I would still say like 1,000 would be an accomplishment, right? Like for me, like if I get to 1,000, then I'm not gonna lie, yeah, definitely is gonna feel like I did something there, you know?
it's like the starting line. If your goal is to, make turn your hobby into something that could like eventually make you money, then it is like the starting.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's something to be excited about, but I also think that there's times where I've been a little like existential in that I'm like, okay, I'm here now. This has been my goal for so long. Now what, right?
Yeah.
I think that there should have been a time where I just accepted that it was going to happen, um, and that I should have been planning for the direction that I'm doing now. But I think that I've funneled my content down, which is already a bit of um, a boost to the way it's going to be perceived in the algorithm. And there's been some tools that I've bought lately that have been really helpful as well.
True. I think that a lot of these things, like for me, like I want to make the channel self-sufficient, like where if I'm buying a game to play on stream, like it's coming straight out of like what would be given to the channel, right? So like the end goal for me would be just to have like a self-sufficient like hobby where I don't have to worry about paying into it. Because currently everything that I do on the stream is out of pocket, which can be annoying sometimes where I'm just like, oh, I have to go buy this game real quick. So like I think that you kind of have to be realistic about like where your goals are, because I think a lot of people join YouTube to like they think it's going to be like a really easy thing to make quick money, and then we see people like start like we see like people start to like either like get caught into like pitfalls where like a certain type of content like appeals to them because it's getting them viewerships and subs, so they kind of like lock themselves into this position where I don't think they enjoy the thing that they're doing.
Oh, for sure. I've definitely felt that at times where I like what Rabbit said, where there's two ways to get a name for yourself on YouTube. You can work hard, make videos, and hope for the best, or you live streaming Hannibal into the drama. I think the stress of doing the latter is been a lot for sure. Like, I think that it's fine sometimes, but it comes and goes in like waves essentially, where like it can kind of like it becomes harder for you to like leave it at your computer, right? Like that I think is definitely something that is like that can be understated. Um, if you're somebody who is like a really anxious personality, like doing the drama stuff is definitely like probably not your best bet, because I think that long term, it's probably going to have some impact on you. Yeah, I mean, I think we've
On your
seen
mental health,
not
right?
yeah, definitely. Like you do need to be able to depersonalize what happens on the internet, no matter how shitty it can be sometimes. Like keeping your IRL stuff and your um your online stuff like separate is generally like best practice. And I think there's been times for me where I've been tempted to like mix both. I'm still inclined to do it when it makes sense to. Like for example, like I like the idea of like streaming with my mom sometimes, and I've done it a couple times. She's really funny, and I like doing it. But the other thing as well is like, I have to accept that with whatever sort of reputation that I carry online, that is also then going to be passed on to her. Or, she could be the negative recipient of, whatever sort of blowbacks coming my way, right? And I have to consider that, like, if that is something that I genuinely want, because I think like my mom is like one of the most important people in my life. I have a very close relationship with her. I see her regularly. And so if I caused her any sort of like, uh, any sort of like, even a minor inconvenience, I think would be, something that I think would be really, really, would be lost on me.
would be stressful for sure, right? Because I think that's a big problem on on YouTube, that a lot of people don't consider like what they're gonna put up, because they don't consider the repercussions of like, hey, if I start doing this, then I'm probably gonna like if you go into drama, definitely you're gonna make a few enemies right along the way. Like they're like
Yeah,
if you're
it's
covering drama,
necessary.
yeah, that's just what's going to happen. And I don't think a lot of people consider that once you dive into that world, like everything that you have posted beforehand that you thought was like inconsequential to the drama can be used in that drama, right?
Totally. Yeah. Um, and there is never necessarily like clear battle lines for some people. I think that when those people make themselves like really apparent that they're willing to do whatever, I think that generally the internet has a way of like mitigating that, but not always, right? I think that we have definitely seen some like tyrannical people make it pretty far, and sometimes it's scary to see how they like how much negative impact they can have on the community around them, with seemingly like impunity till um, until they're forced to face consequences. And you really never know, right? Like there are some really big creators that have made it very far with being very I would
Heavy
say like
handed.
antagonistic or
Yeah, heavy handed
heavy-handed. Yeah,
with their tactics on people, right? Like, I think there's a lot of creators that probably like make pretty good money on that, right? Because like as much as I hate to say it, hate sells, right? Like when you're watching a stream and you kind of hate some or dislike someone, and then you watch someone like validate that opinion, I feel like that just drives a that starts building a community of people that just like will be fucking bloodthirsty for pretty much anything that you throw at them, right? And I could also see it as a way of like gaslighting a community into essentially becoming a hate mob against people, right? Where they pretty much believe everything you say, but never really question like why they're doing the thing. Hello, Nave. Did your mic die?
sorry. I sent you a message in side chat. I had to run to the bathroom.
Okay.
I had my like AirPods in, so I was listening. But um, yeah, I get what you're saying. Like they take like a lot of direction from the streamer. And then there's other things that you can do that are like indirectly, like just by poking your head into a drama stream, regardless of whether you chat, you are somewhat not contributing to like negative outcomes, but you're encouraging the person. You're essentially encouraging the behavior, right? So if you have a principled stance on that kind of content, the best thing to do would to not watch it at all. But drama content is like a car crash, right? Like people gawk at it all the time, regardless. And so it's not necessarily something you would necessarily need to like condemn people for like watching. But it is definitely something that a lot of people don't consider. Um, so yeah, I mean it's an interesting dynamic, and I think from being on the receiving side of a lot of attention, like depending on what it is that I decide that I want to cover, like the temptation is real to do to dedicate my streams to like one specific topic or like one specific person. I think I was really against doing that when I started doing the drama stuff. And I think I've opened my eyes up to like more of the potential. So now it's like I'm at a point where I'm just like, okay, to what extent, where do I draw the lines, etc. And I don't even necessarily think I've figured that all out yet. So it really sucks, but you gotta, as a content creator, you kind of gotta do your best and look at like the mistakes that other people have made and hope for the best really. There isn't really a handbook for this sort of thing outside of like the terms of service.
Uh, I know you're diving into drama at the moment. Anything else that you're particularly keeping in mind to like keep yourself from like those pitfalls, essentially?
Yeah, I think that when I cover drama, I want to be like contributing something to like the discourse to some degree. And it can be so easy to just like spend an entire drama stream like throwing mud. And I've definitely fallen into that trap before. But I want to separate myself from the pack by doing my best to look at things and like from providing like some sort of like overview or diving into this sort of stuff. I think TLDR was an attempt at doing that, where I wanted to be able to provide people with context and understanding so that you could like just join any stream ideally and like know what was happening. That was like some value that I considered like that was like a value add. But in doing so, you like you can't necessarily like in getting a better understanding for yourself to then provide an understanding for other people, you are also then submerging yourself in the shit. Like it's necessary that you do that. So that that is an unintended consequence that I didn't necessarily consider as much. I thought that I could be more I thought that I could be more observant and less involved, and I'm starting to realize that's not the case.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty common misconception, right, amongst like people that because like I know for me, like I haven't wanted to do drama, but I think that if I were to do it, I would try to engage with it in a healthy way. But I think I would still fall into the same pitfalls that most people fall into because it's very hard to like navigate through that kind of content with without falling into these like little temptations, right? Or not even temptations because it's just like a necessary component to the drama, right? Like you're gonna be um you're gonna be like falling you're going to be doing the things that you're pretty much against in most cases.
Definitely. Yeah, like if you're a very principled person, then you would generally find it really difficult to be doing drama content in general. I think it would probably be something to steer away from. And I think that in doing it, I've definitely compromised some specific elements of myself that that I've had to spend a lot of time like reflecting on. Like even today, just having like I do counseling once a week. And I was just discussing with my counselor about this. I was saying like, the one of the things that I'm recognizing about being online is that sometimes like you can become like not a cult of personality. Like people can be drawn to specific elements of yourself that you don't like. And that to me is very conflicting, where if there's an expectation for me to like act a particular way and sometimes even sound a particular way, like I there was interesting where like as a trans person and having like a particularly deep voice and then doing voice training and wanting to like work on it deliberately, I did have like people push back on it, which was weird for me. I didn't really consider that would ever be a factor, and not as a criticism to those people, but I guess it's implied in that they would watch me in the first place that they were okay with it, but it never occurred to me that they would necessarily like it or prefer it, or have opinions about like the latter. That's an example. Like I think the one that I think is a little bit more problematic for me is that in the sort of drama content when there's a lot of conviction, I can be a very passionate person, and I'm not always proud of the things that I say in those circumstances, right? Like I think that I act, um, I think that there are times where I act in a way that I feel shameful about after the fact. And so when those sorts of behaviors are being rewarded with viewership, then it becomes like a very, very difficult thing where it's like, okay, like it's not that this isn't me, but this is such a small portion of who I am. And I think that I have a lot more to offer to YouTube than me being angry or antagonistic or combative, like those are things that that it just feels like I'm flexing a muscle that I don't necessarily um want to exacerbate as much, but here we are. um like I said, just because I'm aware of it doesn't necessarily mean that I have a solution, right?
Yeah.
Something I've been thinking about.
Yeah. Uh I just like do you think that most people that get into drama content come at it like in that kind of regard, or do you think like there's already like a preemptive thing to like pretty much shit on people?
So
Like
most
that's like
drama streamers are
the
like completely afraid to be like vulnerable in any way. And I think I've made that very clear about myself that um at least right or wrong, like I'm willing to explore, or at least openly, why I'm wrong. And sometimes I don't always reach like good conclusions. And it's not to say that I necessarily need need that, but like I said, it's like walking around the dark and bumping into walls looking for a light switch, right? That's kind of how I see this sort of thing. I was not a big social media person. Not saying by following, but use whatsoever. Like I had to create accounts to be online, and even now I spent more time deleting them. Like I recently deleted my TikTok, my Twitter, um, like I think like a month or a couple months ago, and those are things that I embraced as part of being a content creator, but recognized that they were just impacting me negatively, so I deleted them. The only one that I'm like genuinely committed to, I would say, is like YouTube, and Instagram, because I think it's tied to just a different time period in my life where I still like keep it from me, and I have a lot of strong boundaries there. But anything else, like I find it really hard to take on other social media stuff and like try and implement it into my life. And my attempts as of lately, except for like YouTube, have been terrible. And I don't think that they necessarily even fit with who I am as a person, really. Away from, I think before the computer, I think I was a really private person, and a very just um afraid to make mistakes, and openly just like not necessarily like willing to take a lot of risks, especially when it comes to like optic considerations. And that's how I was in my personal life, right? So when I came online, I'm just opening a gaping wound for myself. Like I'm giving people room to like criticize me, and it's been liberating, but it's also been really scary at the same time.
would you say that's a pretty common thing though, like to basically like divert most of your attention into like social media?
Is it a
I
common thing?
I
No.
I would think that it'd be pretty common amongst especially content creators, right? Like I think like a lot of people end up like spreading themselves too wide at the beginning.
Yeah, so I approached content creation like as a small business from the beginning. I had somebody invest in me quite significantly when I started. And so there's no pressure necessarily for me to pay that person back. There's somebody who's like that I'm very close to, who is, quite wealthy. But the pressure for me to like follow through on that element is really important to me, which is why I treat it that way. Like I treat it like a small business where I can meet my obligations and in real life, like you said, have something that like accumulates over time, and then builds into something that I can be proud of. But as is, and it has nothing to do with necessarily my associations. Like I generally don't like talking, like when I talk to my IRL friends, unless I'm like hitting a milestone or something, like I'm really really like I can feel really shameful for talking about my social media presence, and maybe that's just the way that I was like raised. But yeah,
Hmm,
it's just I feel like go ahead.
that's a bit strange because I would say like for people our age, I think that social media presence is actually like something that a lot of people talk about. So it is interesting to hear the other perspective because I agree with you. I'm on the same boat where social media has never really been something that I enjoy to a degree. Like YouTube is like the first thing that I think I've actually driven myself to a more public view, but even then I reserve so much where like I don't show my face on cam. No one will ever find out like my real name. There are stuff that I'm gonna keep reserved for myself, and like in my real world I don't talk about this. I like I think if someone asked me about the channel, like if it ever grew to a point where I would be like, I would feel okay with it. I even then I don't know if I would talk about it, like because
And there's also something. Sorry, Ronan.
okay, yeah, I think it's like for me, like I said earlier, this is kind of like a hobby for me, where it's like if I'm really good at a hobby, I don't necessarily have to go around like talking about it, right? Like I said earlier, I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh, but like that's not really something a lot of people know about me because again, it was a hobby at the time. I don't derive most of my meaning from my hobbies. I just try to like have conversations with people that are like we're doing right now, where it's just like interesting subjects where I don't really have to focus a lot on myself. I don't know if that's necessarily true for a lot of people in our generation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just I guess, having motivations outside of like, I want to be known, I want to be famous, I want to be infamous, I want to, I want money, I want et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, those are motivations that a lot of people understand, but I don't think people would see YouTube as like necessarily a legitimate, not a legitimate hobby, but like you would have to make a case for it and like explain to them how it becomes something that, is akin to like joining a rec basketball team. There are similar aspects, right? Like you're immersing yourself in a community, you are meeting other people who do the same thing, who have similar interests. There are places where everybody gathers. And so just because it's not something that's recognizable on the outside doesn't mean that it doesn't carry a lot of the same benefits. If you have some sort of intention around it and you're deliberate about how you dictate your time, then you shouldn't ever feel a kind of like a typical like a kind of way about doing that. And especially nowadays, I think I'm more inclined to say like, uh, especially with the StreamYard crowd and seeing like the sorts of ages of necessary like content creators, and then following a lot of the participants, like we're getting to that age where social media has already been embedded in so much of the population's lives that just doing things like that is just kind of like normal, you know?
Yeah, it's pretty much the norm, right? Like again, like when you mentioned the StreamYard like thing, like yeah, we see like ranges from like early 20s to like really late in their life. So like I think it's pretty much permutated into like every aspect of everyone's life. So like yeah,
Yeah, to some degree.
I would agree that yes, like but like I don't know if like we're all engaging with this the same way, right? Because like we were saying earlier, like I think there are a lot of people on like the platform that kind of make kind of make this their like social hangout spot, which I don't know if it's necessarily healthy. I don't know if you would agree with that.
It depends how tied and how reliant they are on it. Like how if there's a dependence there, I would say it's probably not healthy. Even for myself, like I struggle to manage friends in general, just with how my particular like how I like ration my energy and my focus. I really do best in life when I'm focused on what's in front of me. And I really look for friendships in life that are self-maintaining almost, where It's like, I love you, you love me, we know that. So let's not worry about all the time that we don't spend together. Let's be really happy when we do spend time together.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I really and really like appreciate those sorts of moments. Like I'm going to like a barbecue tomorrow, and I really love doing stuff like that. Like that's kind of my vibe. And I used to be like a big party girl. Um, like I wouldn't say necessarily like super bad, but living in a small town, people tend to drink, you know?
Yeah. I mean, what else are you gonna do? Like,
Yeah, definitely. Like it's definitely um sorry, I have no idea what I just said. Yeah, it's definitely something to consider, and I'm constantly like walking a tip type throat almost with like my girlfriends and like making sure that they're, I keep them in my life, attending birthdays, things like that, but also with people that I've met online as well, because now I feel like I have strong bonds with people for like from all over the world, and with with at least some sort of like understanding that I am limited with this with this sort of circumstance or this sort of friendship, that I genuinely do care about these people, uh, and that those sorts of things require like nurturing as well.
yeah.
So yeah, striking that balance is difficult for me right now. I've definitely, it's definitely been tough. I'm getting into like summertime, and generally that's like where I spend most of the time outside. And this is like going to be the first summer where I'm going to be committed primarily indoors. So that's a really interesting thing that I've had to come to accept, especially knowing like where I live. Like like I live across the street from a beach, so I'm like not like the temptation to be outside is so so strong that I'm like I said, it's like whether it's the friendships online or in person, or wanting to be outside or wanting to be online, wanting to be play games and build new relationships, or to spend time with my family, which I love doing, and I'll make time either way. um that's the tightrope you walk as like a content creator, especially if you're somebody who is taking it somewhat seriously.
Yeah. So how do you feel about like the parasocial aspect of like as a content creator, like how do you try to mitigate like the parasocial between you and your crowd? Like obviously I'm friends with a lot of the people that are usually in my chat. Not necessarily everyone, but like I've talked to a lot of them. But like I do like if this ever got bigger, I don't know how I would make sure that I'm keeping them at a like reasonable distance.
Definitely. I think the one thing for myself, and something that's just a thing for me in my life, is just like generally tiptoeing around other people's emotions has always been an issue for me. So essentially like I've had to learn to be, to have strong boundaries and to almost be like, let me see if I this is the word means what I want it to mean, like is so like flippant almost about other people's emotions, because there's have been times where my life has been ruled by other people's moods, and like to the negative impact of my own life, where I've been where it starts like with a bad roommate who is overly critical, and doesn't necessarily that really does dictate how I feel on a day-to-day basis, because if I leave my house to work and my roommate's mad at me, like I'm a sensitive person and that impacts me, right? I recognize that about myself. It's just undeniable, not something I can really do. So if that happens, if that's the case, then over time, I think the correction for myself has been to understand and acknowledge other people's emotions, but to be very clear that I'm not like I struggle to manage my own. I can't manage yours as well. And so I think with the parasocial elements, it really does come to like I think that I'm still trying to address that in a way that uh, that is, equitable for everyone. But I recognize that there is no one size fits all approach, and that there are people that will carry attachments for you, and that those aren't bad, but they're not necessarily something to like cry home about either, because they can become problematic. So you have to be ready to deal with either or, right?
Yeah.
I think sometimes with just like being professional can be, can seem kind of cold to some people, especially when you present yourself in a particular way. But yeah, like generally speaking, that seems like the best way to approach things, where um, you know, where it's not so much to like draw a boundary and say like I don't like this, or like please don't do this. It's like literally saying, hey, I need to draw a boundary here with this specifically. Please don't take it personally. That's just me. Like I need people to understand that like if I don't do that, then I don't then I have no chance for my for like day-to-day survival.
Yeah.
I cannot be I do like my mental health is not that such that I can afford to be taking on that sort of burden, especially not in real life and not online, even more so. So
Okay, yeah, like that'd be something I would agree with, like setting the strict boundaries within. But like so what would you say to the people that like are like genuinely like the just as an example, like someone who like donates to your channel a lot, but they assume that's necessarily them getting closer to you. So like what would you say to that person?
it's an interesting circumstance and something that I've just come into as an understanding. I think with a circumstance that I can think of my mind, just like not necessarily making myself available, but not also closing myself off is definitely like an okay middle ground, where that person, the context of which that person is spending money on me matters as well. Like if this person is just like rooting for me and they have some extra bucks lying around and they're spending money on me, then that's different from then if somebody has like some sort of attraction or some sort of like ideal about me built up in their mind about me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I guess I've never experienced the latter yet, and when I do, I will let you know. But with the former, I think that at least presenting myself differently off stream is a good way to start if I'm in like a community space, because I think it lets people understand that like I'm very deliberate with my time and where I choose to spend it, and that if I'm being genuine around you, it's because I have a genuine appreciation for who you are. But if I start to seem a little closed off or a little too I don't know how you want to say it, like cold is a really bad word, but like a little too formal, then generally speaking, it's probably because like there needs to be a boundary there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, with like you said, like the parasocial elements and the financial element, um, I think that's a good way for me to show appreciation for that, with an understanding that that like it's like I can't be in a situation like I think the only thing worse than managing other people's um emotions would be somebody leveraging donations, uh showing it as like veiling it as kindness but with expectation tied to the end of it, because that is definitely something that I think is even more scary than managing other people's emotions.
Yeah, like I feel like that's something that a lot of content creators run into, and I feel like that's one of those things that I feel like you have to consider beforehand, because like even I'm super far away from monetization. I don't have the watch hours, I don't have the subs, but like even I think about that. It's like, what if someone tried to leverage that? Like I don't know like where my mind would go with that. So like I try to ask myself the question of like, yeah, what would this necessarily do? So like, and I think the financial element does add like a weird layer to it because they are kind of like carrying on the thing that I'm enjoying doing, right? Like I enjoy the hobby itself. So if they're like amplifying it, it's kind of hard to be like turning yourself against that. But then it's becomes like a moral question if like if it's okay for you to do this, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's a scary thing when money's involved.
So like it's just like if that happened to you, like what? How do you think you would handle it? Like, let's talk about the abstract right now. Like,
Can you give me a more specific situation or
let's
circumstance?
say
I think
like
that's
you get
important.
let's say you get like an oiler in chat, right? Like, and for those of you that don't know what an oiler is, it's someone that spends loads of money on your in your community. Like they're the top supporting person in the community, and they start setting an expectation for for how they perceive you and want the content to go, right? Or like have a closer relationship. Both are a little bit different. Obviously, let's talk about the first. Like if they like try to direction your content, how would you handle that?
I think so that's another thing that's like almost pay for play in some regards, where if somebody is like feeding me some sort of narrative and they want and it's tied to money, if that's somebody who like is genuinely committed to my community, then I would like be more interested in like sussing that out. But if that's somebody outside my community who just comes with like a big donation, then obviously you have to take a like a closer look at something like that. But I think I like in terms of like if somebody wants, okay, so this is something that like a lot of female streamers deal with, right? Where it's like there's things like do a 360 and like things like that where um I think I drew inspiration for this particular stuff from like actually Chad Logic of all people. I was watching a stream the other night where somebody did donate to him and had like some sort of side request for him, and he was like, he basically just said like, hey, thank you so much for the donation. Unfortunately, I'm not a performing monkey, so thank you, but no, right? And I think that was a very clear boundary, because I think that with whether it's like having a quote unquote chaser or like I think with women that becomes more of a thing, where especially when people comment on my appearance, I think that's amazing. Sometimes that can like make my day. I think that's awesome. But I'm also weary about that as well because I'm like not necessarily about, I would be weary about it if it was attached to some money, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, you did. Yeah, but for that aspect, yeah, I 100% agree. I think again, like I feel like that, but it's one of those pitfalls that I think a lot of content creators face. Like, because like at the same time, like some people do turn this like you said, like you want to make this a business, so you obviously want your business to do well. So if people are sending in money to do a 360, then yeah, the temptation is going to be large, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think businesses have menus, not outright for this particular streamer, because I know there's an implication with that as well. But there you should set an expectation for your streamer. And if that is not something, if there's something that that streamer doesn't do that you would like them to do, then, I'm sure you can find streamers that do. But yeah, ultimately, yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think like okay, so I'm of the opinion, or sorry, I'm of the experience that I have like public experience. So I've been in roles that require a particular kind of tact, that have that have made me essentially had to obsess over optics, away from my jobs, away from what I'm doing. What am I going to look like in this particular circumstance? I was bad. Like I actually took me a long time to get over this. So there was things where like I wouldn't smoke in public. I wouldn't drink in public. Like I did drink, but I was very like conscious about how I was doing it. Like those are like very like particular things that I used to obsess over. My presentation was one. I had a no sweatpants rule, that I do not leave my room, my house in sweatpants. That is just number one no go for me, non-starter. But like over time, I started to recognize that I'm very like uptight and like particular. And so like trying to get that out of my body and out of my lifestyle has been like a slow burn. And so so like actually like accepting and telling people that essentially that I play Overwatch online and that's my hobby, that was a big fucking thing for me because it was something that I was really shameful about. Like just being somebody that had spent so much time online playing games, you wouldn't think would like necessarily matter. But I think that I was in circles of people that were very, very like productive and deliberate about the way they use their time. And so by association, I always felt like I could never present myself in in the way that I actually am. So so I think that filters into the way that I approach myself like online as well. But again, like it's an interesting thing. It becomes like obsessive really, and not something to not something that I would ever want for someone else. And I recognize that like there are negatives to doing something in an online place because if you have like long-term aspirations of like being political or et cetera, like you could be potentially like limiting that for yourself in the future. Whereas like I felt like I already did that and I realized like this isn't what I want to be. I think that I learned a particular way of being that I like and that I convey on a regular basis. Like I think that when I want to be, I can be very elegant and very, tactful. But that I felt that it was too polished and too contrived for me to actually live my life and feel happy about it on a regular basis. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah. But now let's explore the second part of that where I was saying now someone's like highly invested into your like again like an oiler would be highly invested into the business that you have made. But now they're trying to leverage that as a friendship. How do you tell people to engage with that? Because I see a lot of people fall into that where like someone shows up, donates a lot of money, and then you see that person become like a mod or like someone really head in charge of like the community as a whole, which has always been strange to me to an
Yeah,
aspect.
definitely.
Because like for me, like the way I selected my mods are the people that I actually like really trust and like have had conversations with on a more than just like a stream level, right? Where I know that like, if it came down to it, they would tell me, "Hey, I don't want to do this," or "Hey, I want to do this," or like would be willing to criticize me in points where most people wouldn't criticize me.
Yeah, definitely. You need somebody that is comfortable being able to, to tell you when something is up. I think with my approach to mods, it's actually quite sexist. You might know this, but I have a I do have a female only mod rule, and I have made exceptions, definitely. But the other thing as well is that um, I do my best to reward loyalty or like time spent in stream. And so like just because you spend a lot of time in my stream doesn't necessarily that I'm inclined to mod you. But I feel like if you spend a lot of time in my stream and I feel like we align on enough things, then I would be inclined to like share that ownership with you with like, a good understanding for what that means. I think like Lauren's a good example. Lauren spent a lot of time on my stream. I think she's somebody that I like to talk to. And I know that if there's ever anything wrong, I could, pull her aside and say like, hey, like maybe we should do this. Not necessarily like me redirecting her, but if there's an issue that emerges on stream and I need somebody to like riff with about it, like I know that I could like pull her aside and talk to her about it. And there's other people as well who have followed me through different arcs that I've been on, like whether it was like my Angela Knight like Black Manosphere arc, or like doing very Overwatch specific arcs, so like vertical lives, et cetera, et cetera. Seeing when you start to notice the people who stick through all of your substantial changes and stuff, those are definitely people you should take a look at. I also think that it's that like with that I think people should also understand, like there also needs to be a degree of um like obviously a mutual respect or whatever. Okay, how did I get here? I avoided the conversation. I avoided the question completely. Basically, what
Uh,
I wanted to say is that I would prefer that if I had mods in my community that didn't necessarily like take me too seriously, that people are that I could like pull aside and talk to about things. But when it comes to people who donate financially, it's like the best thing that I can do is to create clear expectations for what those donations mean. A good way for me to do that would be like my membership tiers, super chats again, but there, like I don't have a menu. Whether you donate $500, you donate $5. Obviously, they're very significant. Obviously, one has a significant impact more than the other, but I don't know that I have additional tricks for people who donate a lot versus people who donate a little. And I like tricks isn't the right word. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
well, like I think we could
you know what
both
I'm saying?
agree.
Like,
I think we could both agree. Like if someone donates, like they're the top donator, I would probably acknowledge that they are the top donator. I would probably be like, yeah, thanks for coming, this person, or like make them a member of the community that kind of stands out. But I don't think I would officially give them any like authority over the community, because I think that's potential for some like for essentially creating a hug box or an echo chamber, whatever you want to call it.
yeah,
Because like I think that's an issue that a lot of people run into, where it's like people agree with them constantly, so they kind of like or and donate so much to them that it you put them as a position of power where it just kind of leads you down a bad path, because no matter what you do, these people will always agree with you no matter what, right? Like you can be doing some heinous shit and they would, like we were saying earlier, like I think that happens a lot with the drama community, where like you can be doing some really crazy shit on like the drama aspect, and these people would follow you into the depths of hell, right?
definitely. Yeah,
That
definitely.
that's why I'm
Um,
just like I'm very careful about trying to navigate, like if you are like if you're gonna be an oiler here, or like right now I don't have monetization, so I don't have to, this isn't a particular worry I have to worry about. But I am, if I ever reach monetization, I do want to consider this as an idea where it's just like I don't want these people like to think like they will ever get like an authority figure, not an authority figure. I don't know what
no
the word
pro
would be.
quid pro.
Yeah.
No quo quid. No, yeah, no. I can never say it, but you know what I'm saying. Quid pro quo.
Yeah, quid pro quo. Yeah, I'm the same way. I can't say
I'm
it.
looking.
Yeah,
I guess we can say it. Quid
but
pro.
yeah,
Yeah, it's quid pro quo.
yeah, but yeah, like I don't want necessarily add that into effect, because like again, like I was saying, like there are, I feel like that would create an echo chamber for myself, like where like no deriving like, because this person obviously fucking has some sort of investment in me, right? So like if someone tries to criticize an idea I have or criticize me in general, like they would probably be on the side of let's jump to the like the most extreme version and like ban this person or something like that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Um, I think yeah. So that's the other thing as well. Like the degree of ownership that I extend to like my mods, for example, is very like self-directed. So I say like from the beginning that I don't have any expectation for your time. Like I'm modding you because you're already here a lot, but I'm not giving you, I'm not saying you need to adhere to my stream schedule or whatever. like you are, mod when you're here, um, and that's it, right? Like, and the other thing as well, where it's like, I would want these people to essentially um help in making it a community that they want to be around more. And so when my mods aren't like around, I mean, it's not something that I like I'm kind of like, okay, like everyone has their lives. But I also think in the back of my head, I'm like, I like wonder what is it about my content that is like not even interesting to them right now, right? But I guarantee like Lauren, for example, mods like so many different people. Like I can think of like 4 or 5, right? So, but I'm just saying like it's not insignificant when they're not there, but also I think from the very beginning I was very good about setting an expectation to just say like you're very appreciated when you're here. If you want to be, but if you don't want to be, that's okay. Like no whatever. It's like no strings attached almost, right? Is generally like the best way that I felt like I've been approaching it. Um and there have been times where I've like it's only been like the last month or so where I've needed mods because my channel comes and goes in waves, right? There's times where I'm super busy and there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's times where I'm like playing a game with like 3 to 4 viewers, and that happens a lot, right? So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have an expectation that a mod stick around for all of that, like or at all, or even show up. Like I genuinely wouldn't. So it's kind of like I appreciate if you're there when the streams are big. I think my biggest concurrent was like 130 at one point in one stream. You might know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So that would be a stream where I'd be like, okay, I'd really appreciate having as many of you guys there as possible. And they did. They were there. They showed up, and it was amazing. Really cool to have that. But then there are other times where it's like, dude, if there's no one there, it's kind of like you would get cut at a restaurant if the restaurant isn't busy enough. Like, please hang around if you enjoy it. Like, I'd love to have you here. I'd love to have someone to riff off from in the chat. Just have conversation. That's great, wonderful, especially when it's somebody I'm comfortable with. But also understand that, like, dude, if it's not busy, and you don't want to come through, like I don't know, no hard feelings. Like I understand. It's also like no, that's the thing. Like not tying the no obligation, no strings attached thing. I think was really important to me. I was really afraid of like giving people a responsibility and then also getting like asked or butthurt about setting unrealistic expectations for that, especially for my channel. Like, what if I said to Lauren, your schedule is this. I expect you in my streams for 3 hours a day, and it's like, dude, let's be real. I think that there are maybe 1 to 2 streams I do a month that would warrant a lot, like more than one of my mods to show up, right? And I understand that, but can you imagine though if I didn't have the self-awareness to recognize that, and I was like, Lauren, this is your schedule, like clock in, clock out, like let's debrief, let's chat, like little stuff like that, and I'm getting like 3 to 4 viewers. I mean, it's like that to me I think is important, right?
Yeah.
Like it scales with whatever. It scales with the community.
Yeah, for sure. And I do think also like the amount of trust that you put in your mods is also really important, right? Like for me, like I pretty much let them do their thing because I put a very high level of trust, so I don't really have to police like the community or the Discord or whatever like aspect they're doing. I don't really have to ask a lot of questions. I know like if there's an issue, they'll bring it up to me where it's just like, okay, this happened in chat today. Just letting you know. And I think that a lot of people just like a lot of people don't have that layer of trust. Like they have to like command, like essentially like dictate what the mods are gonna do, which I think could be problematic to to a really high degree, right? Where because now it is the thing that you were saying, you're setting an expectation for them.
Definitely. Yeah, the other thing as well, is that I think that if my channel ever does carry any clout in the future, I don't want to oversaturate the role by extending it to like everyone and their mom. Like I think that like whatever I'm like hopefully it's not infamy, right? But if it's ever like a considerable amount of clout, then being a mod in my community, I'd like that to carry some sort of whatever renown as well, right? As small and as cringe and as insignificant as some people think that is, I think that a lot of people really diminish the or trivialize the wrench, quote unquote, right, by giving it out to too much people. I think that I'm capable of liking you and appreciating you, and I also do my best to not like I've been pressured to wrench like other friends streamers, and I always say no, because I don't want my stream to become a job for you. Like come here because you enjoy it or because you're appreciating it. But yeah, like I don't have any expectation for them to work while they're here. Um, but yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah, like I think that's pretty common among streamers, right? Like a streamer would come into your chat, so you automatically mod them, which I feel like could be problematic because like I feel like it makes the streamer feel like they're obligated in some way to show up to your streams, right? So yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I don't even like when other people wrench me like whatsoever. Um, there are some chats where it makes sense. Like there are some communities where getting a wrench is like you're certified. I understand that, but that's only because the people that are unwrenched stand out so much. Everyone has one, so it's like okay, wrench me there. I get it. It doesn't mean that I'm actual a mod, but like if you're a community and you just want me there more, wrenching me is probably gonna make me show up less because I feel like it's like you're handing me responsibility and I'm genuinely there because I enjoy you and that I want to appreciate you. And I think we've discussed this, but I'm generally a really bad chatter. Like if you see me in other chats, like I am not like I generally sometimes I'm reluctant to say hello because not to people individually, but to just say hello in general to everyone. Uh because I know that when I come to watch streams that I'm generally like kind of tired and so I'm like focused on what's going on and doing my best to like support the streamer. But that I need to like work on actually interacting in the chat. Like that is something I'm terrible at. So you know, it's an interesting balance for me because like this is a weird thing to admit, but when people say hi to me in chats, like I get anxious about it. And it's weird. Like I have this weird like I wait, what happened?
I have no idea. It's been doing that a lot.
I kind of get anxious. Like please don't stop doing it. It's validating as hell and I love it. Like obviously I love it, but I get anxious because I feel like there's an expectation that I don't know how to fulfill. Like I other than hey, how are you? Hello, or responding like with a hi, I suck at that, right? I'm not good at that. And then when you add in the fact that like I watch streams to like when I'm tired as hell and I'm just like, you know, like generally I watch stream when I'm editing, so I'm like super focused on one thing, or I'm just like dying in bed on my phone or whatever, right? I suck ass at doing it. Like I'll pull up a stream and play a game, and so most of the time I'll be in your stream and you won't even know. Like I watch a lot of streamers and don't say anything. And so that's how I prefer it, but I've recognized more that there are benefits to saying hello in chats. I just suck at it. Like to me, what it looks like, what it feels like is like I'm walking into a room of people and like this here's the thing. So like as a trans person, when I walk into a room of people, I want to fly under the radar. Like I don't want to stand out necessarily. And sometimes that happens. And sometimes it's a good thing, right? Sometimes it's a good thing. But for the most part, I just want to blend in and like do my own fucking thing and just chill, be there. So when I walk into a room and everyone's like, hey, like hey Neve, hey Neve, hey Neve, or like hey Nicolette, whatever. It's great when it's my friends, but when it's other people, it's like, oh my god, this is like a lot of attention, right? So when I
Yeah.
go into chats and it happens, then I feel the same way. Like I feel like I'm taking away from what's going on screen. Not that I'm that significant, whatever, but you know what I'm saying? Like I just feel like there's too much attention I'm uncomfortable with the attention, I guess, and then it's not insignificant, but I think maybe some people would be surprised to hear me say that because I do not want to distract or take anything away from what's already going on.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, even if
I,
it's
I understand that. Like, I. By the way, Neve, are you moving your mouse at all when you're
no,
talking
I
to
was
me?
articulating.
Oh, okay, because like that's the game is just registering that you're AFK, so that's why it keeps doing that.
My bad.
Okay, just so you know, like just move the mouse occasionally when you're talking, so the game thinks that you're at least playing. But yeah, like I generally do that. Like I do join a bunch of people's like streams, but I generally just do like a general shout out. Like sup people is something I type in a lot of people's chats. I don't want people to feel bad, but I don't necessarily. That's why I do a generalized greeting because I just want people to. I just kind of want to be like, I'm here watching you guys, or like, just like give a little bit of like that little bit of support, even though like again I'm a nobody, so like it's not that big of a deal, but I do want to show that I at least am giving a layer of support. You know what I mean?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. I think I want to work on that and just like delegate more of my time. Like you'll see me, like if I have energy and I go into a chat, you'll see me. I don't shut the fuck up. Like I'm actually a little unhinged sometimes. And I have fun. Like I have a lot of fun. But when I go into chats and I'm tired, it's like I just want to do my best to like say hello when I can. Uh, but also know that like I'm usually there with my like very little in my cup, so to speak, and so that I suck at like doing the regular stuff. And I always recognize that like I was never a good chatter. Like I didn't come into streaming by watching streamers. I just said I'm going to start streaming and then learned everything in reverse. So
Yeah.
I really had no idea what the fuck I was doing or what sort of expectations chatters had for each other. I was actually very like when they say chats, like they become chats, like not necessarily like in the way that like an MSN chat used to back in the day, like sometimes, right? And I never understood. It's not that I never understood that. That was something that surprised me at first when I first joined the space. I didn't realize
Yeah, no, I 100%
that.
agree. Like I think I'm the same way with like I'm not very good at chatting, right? Like I like if it's a particular subject that I enjoy, like and I have like 2 cents I can like throw in, but I don't really feel like I watch a lot of panel shows, but I don't feel like jumping on a panel necessarily. I'll just like type in what I think in the chat. If they read it, they read it. If not, then at least it's there. You know what I mean? But in general, I don't really like have conversations in chat.
Definitely understand. I think it's something like I want to work on ultimately. Um, but again, it's definitely something that's like not easy for me to do. At this time, it feels like a strain at times. So it's yeah, it's definitely something like I'm just trying to get better at. And I hope that I'm able to do that. But I think that yeah, just again, I like I'm a very like I think I muster a lot of energy to be on stream and to be like cohesive and to look somewhat put together. That requires so much energy from me because I feel like there's times where I have like no energy and I don't know how to like face the world, right? And so when I do that, it's like it usually just like empties my tank generally. I do struggle to like in any situation where there's like expectations put on me after it's definitely difficult for me to do that one.
Also, chat, if you have any questions for Neve, please type them now so we can. Because we're getting near the end of this. We're gonna go for like you have a stream at 7:30, right? So don't want to keep you too much
Yeah,
longer.
yeah, I wouldn't mind like I don't mind answering some questions if there are any, but I wouldn't mind also having a few minutes together on the stream. I'm gonna
Yeah,
be late either way.
yeah. Just giving them the opportunity to like ask a couple questions that maybe I didn't ask today, or like if they want to generally know something about you, then we can
Yeah,
get that worked on. But yeah, I think this space is really like interesting. Like it is like a weird social dynamic that I think it takes some time to learn. Like especially if comparing like my real world to this, like there's just a lot more navigating that I have to do here than I would generally in like IRL, right?
Totally agree.
But I think there are a lot of things that like a lot of people fall into that don't necessarily that I would be hesitant on doing for myself. I don't know if there's a thing that I necessarily uh would call like the worst aspect of like that. You know what I mean? Where it's probably the more influential thing is probably what I'm trying to say here. Where I don't know if there's necessarily something that's super influential that I would be like, yeah, this is something people shouldn't do, right?
Yeah, for sure. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's definitely interesting to see. Like, I think just even as like a final just thing that I could say is like it's interesting to see a bunch of different people from all over the world with different, ideologies and personalities. It's interesting to see their take on streaming, whether they regard it as a small business, a hobby, a way to make friends, an escape. It is really interesting to see that, and I think that you can learn a lot about a person by the way they manage the community or their lack thereof. I have been very upfront in saying I'm clueless. Like when it comes to like the Discord and stuff, and like carrying viewers off of my streams, or even just like building a sense of community in my streams. Like those are things that I need to work on, and I don't necessarily know what to do, um, but I mean I'm not inclined to like stop trying. I think one day hopefully I'll get it off the ground and um yeah and I just hopefully have a lot of the same people that I known from the beginning there to to be around and see that and to take part in that. That's kind of like my hope for streaming, at least giving people a place where they can kick back or engage in something. So
Yeah. Uh, Final question, I guess, would be since we were talking about this subject the whole time, how much loyalty do you think you owe to like someone that's been there since the beginning?
I think that that person would carry somewhat of like a IRL friend status for me, especially like I would say like Kankle is somebody that I would probably hang out with in person. Not to say that I wouldn't with everyone else, but I think if Kankle ever wanted to like come to Canada or I ever wanted to go to the US, I think I would make like a conceited effort to like go see him uh someday, right? Whenever it makes sense to me. Because Kankle and I literally did start from, like basically the starting line, doing, streams to our fucking selves basically from
Yeah.
the very beginning, talking about stuff, getting involved, getting engaged. And that's how we like ingratiated ourselves with communities, getting to know other people. But it was a slow ass burn. So yeah, Kinkle is somebody that I think I was in the trenches with. And like I think I owe a lot of loyalty to him specifically, in terms of the way that I approach his panels or sorry his content, his community. Like I do manage his channel on the back end, but I don't actually do anything. Just like I'm an admin in his Discord and I don't actually do anything. Like I think, like I said, going back to like the way that people delegate branches and community things, like those are sometimes that they're seen as like clout isk, or they're seen as like responsibilities or both, right? Depending.
Yeah.
Whereas I think he's actually okay with it being more of a symbolic gesture, which has actually been very, very helpful for me over the times. Actually, it's been a bit of drama surrounding it, But yeah, like I don't know how to use Discord. You know this intimately because whenever I need something, I go straight to you. I
Yeah.
have no fucking idea, Hornet. Tell me how to make this voice channel. Can you please help me? Can you help me? Right?
Yeah.
And so, I have no business being a Discord admin. I have no business being a mod. No business managing a channel that isn't my own. But I do those things as like as a recognition that we have known each other for long enough now to, like he knows quite a few like personal things about me. Uh, that you know when you say that, it seems like secretive, but that, like you said, like anywhere there's a filter, right?
Yeah.
Of like, okay, this doesn't make sense for me to talk on stream, or maybe not today, or maybe not in the circumstance. But he's been there through a lot of those different filter changes, so he knows me mostly. And you'll see that too, because with these sorts of friendships and stuff come like fights and arguments. And if you've ever watched Kankle stream, we do tend to fight. We haven't in a long time because he's been infrequent. But yeah, there's a lot of streams where we just been screaming at each other and calling each other idiots and stuff. And that's
Yeah.
fine too, right? Like either there's an object constancy there, or is it object permanence? I think it's object permanence, where it's like I would have to really do something fucked up to know that when I come back on stream or whatever, that I wouldn't be welcome, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. Another
Yeah.
thing
Yeah.
as well with Cankle is that our friendship has almost existed exclusively on screen, which is also really, really cool and unique. We very rarely have chats in the background going, which would surprise some people, but we don't really need to. It just comes with the content.
Yeah, I would say that's extremely unique. Like I don't think we see that often enough. But I we are 6 minutes away from your stream starting. So any closing statements before you go, Neve?
No, I just wanted to say thank you so much for having me on. This has been great. I don't think I actually understood a second of what was happening this entire time. So if you came for Yu-Gi-Oh, I am so sorry. But I did my best. Otherwise, I was reading. But I recognizing that I guess I'm not a great multitasker. So
It's kind of the point. Kind of the point. A lot of us aren't. So but yeah, thank you for coming. Like thank you for the conversation as well. Like I thought this was a pretty good show. Like we talked about a lot. Again, we dived into the content creation as a whole, which I quite enjoyed. But if the mods could link Neve's stream, or also her channel is in the description, so you could also go check it out from there. Anything you want to promote before anything like you're gonna be doing in the future?
not really. Yeah, not at this time. I mean, okay. Are you finished up your stream for today?
I'm finishing up my stream for today. Yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to say that I'm just going to be going over some funny stuff on Reddit again. It's going to be a very chill stream. So if you're looking for someone to go after this, consider stopping by.
Yeah.
We're going to be going
link.
over r/Tinder specifically. So.
Yeah, the link is in description in here. Let me actually go grab it. Do you have the live set up?
I do, yes. It's scheduled,
okay.
So you
can
so
share let me go grab that before we go. But yeah, thanks again, Neve. Again, I appreciate anyone who comes on because again, I am a no name streamer at the moment. So anyone who comes on, I appreciate. And obviously, me and you have conversations in back chat.
Absolutely.
So always
I'll
nice to do it in a professional way. But yeah, you can go, Neve. I'm gonna
pee. I'm so sorry. I'm to the bathroom so bad. I'm like, I will talk to you later. Bye, everyone. Love you.
Okay, here is the link to Neve's live. If you guys can go watch over there, that would be much appreciated. With that, we are ending the second episode of Duel and Discussions. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for dropping by, and I will catch you guys on Sunday. Peace, people.